Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special one-hour edition of Sports Final. First and foremost, let me tell you, this is a show for the fans. Tonight, we brought three people together who have never been physically together before, but who are together in every way in our collective minds. Three people who have collectively spanned 7 decades of performing at a level reserved for a chosen few. Three people who have appeared in a total of 39 All-Star games. 2 of these 3 are in their respective Hall of Fames, and the third will soon be. 2 of these 3 have had their numbers retired, 4 and 9 by their respective teams, and soon number 33 will be. Collectively, they were the MVPs in their leagues 8 times. They have done things that have never been done before, and most assuredly will never be done again. We said this is a show for the fans, and as a result, we welcome 4 other television markets because of the incredible interest: Hartford, Bangor, Portland, and Terre Haute, Indiana, plus WBZ Radio simulcast. The 7 decades began at the end of the 1930s, when the kid from San Diego, California, came to Fenway Park. It's over a half-century later, and people are still talking about the most charismatic, most engaging, most individualistic, and arguably the greatest hitter that has ever lived. His career highlights are mind-boggling. Twice the MVP, Player of the Decade in the 1950s. He won baseball's Triple Crown twice, 6-time batting champion, 4-time home run champion, All-Star 18 times, and of course, the Hall of Fame. And still 5 full years were taken from the prime of his career due to military service. Ted Williams, like his 2 companions tonight, had an uncanny flair for the dramatic. He also had a tempestuous relationship with the press and the fans, while at the same time possessing under his bigger-than-life image a heart of gold for those less fortunate, especially for the Jimmy Fund.
I got to where I didn't like him. And I got to admit, I think I was treated unfairly a lot of times. So I developed the habit, because of their lousy writing and the response some of the guys in the stands reacted to their writing. I said, well, I ain't ever going to tip my hat again. See? Now I'm going to give you a line that I'm going to say tonight. That I have this confession, and it is the truth, that I have tipped my hat 1,000 times in my heart to the people in New England for their generosity, their concern, their support of this fund, great fund called Jimmy.
If Teddy Ballgame is the raging bull of Boston sports, then Bobby Orr and Larry Bird were its sacred cows. Bobby and the battling Bruins and the medium of television combined for what truly was the golden era of Bruins hockey, and without question providing a magnificent link in the chain between the Ted Williams and Larry Bird eras. With a young Bobby Orr, the Bruins brought the first Stanley Cups to town in 29 years.
Westfall rolled it in front. Sanderson tried a shot that was wide, and Keenan cleared it, but not out. Bobby Orr behind the net to Sanderson. Orr! Bobby Orr scores, and the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup. Certainly a very exciting moment here in the Boston Garden. Scotty Bowman out there congratulating the Bruins. There's a happy fan. He's kissing Bobby Orr.
Orr controlled the game like none have ever done, nor likely to do again. It has been said that Bobby Orr is the single most talented performer that we have ever seen in any sport anywhere, and probably the closest we have ever come seeing a performer that has been touched by the hand of God himself. He had an unmatched style, a certain purity. Record books show All-Star 8 times, Best Defenseman 8 times, MVP of the playoffs twice, MVP of the regular season 3 times, first defenseman ever to win a league scoring title, which he did twice, and of course, the Hall of Fame. Rinks were built, UHF television antennas were sold in record numbers, and more kids are playing more hockey today because of this one man. His impact on the sport in this town have been enormous. In short, Orr is magic. And like his basketball and baseball counterparts that are here tonight, he is one of the 3 untouchables in the Boston sports scene.
I guarantee you I'll give 100% every time I come out. And if I get a torn toenail or something, I won't sit out. I'll play as hard as I can every night. And I hope I can bring excitement to the fans, and I'll never give up.
That was one promise that was most assuredly kept. He came to Boston billed as the savior of the most storied franchise in professional sports. And save it he did. Not once in his professional career did Larry Bird play in front of an empty seat at the Boston Garden. He brought the Celtics and professional basketball in this town to heights never before imagined. He led the Celtics to 3 world championships. 3 times he was named the NBA Most Valuable Player. Twice he was named playoff MVP. He was the NBA Rookie of the Year in 1980. And for the first 9 years of his career, he was named to the first-team NBA All-Stars. But numbers and awards do not begin to tell the tale of Bird's impact on the Celtics and the city of Boston. No one worked harder on the floor than Larry Bird, and no one worked harder to make himself better. He brought a Puritan work ethic to the game that Celtic fans love. The true mark of a superstar is to elevate the play of those around him. Bird did that and more. When the game was on the line, Larry always seemed to make the key play.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up, 1 second left. What a play by Bird.
Game gets close or something happens when it seems like everything's falling apart during a game. The great athletes can step above everybody else and take their game to another level.
They'd all rise to occasions. The tougher it got and the more pressure was on, the more all 3 of them loved it.
And welcome back live. Here we are, Bobby, Ted, and Larry. It's a thrill for us to have you here, needless to say, but you're here as fans. Ted came all the way from Florida to be here. Larry's, it's 2 hours past his bedtime, and you jump off a Baybank's billboard just to be here tonight. But tell me about the fact that you guys are fans. Ted, I guess I would start with you here. Fans of these guys, and
I certainly am. I mean, you know, here I'm the old guy of this trio, and followed the careers of both of them. And I think any true sports fan would say that in their particular sports, nobody was any better or ever as good, probably.
Larry called you Mr. Williams. I thought that was kind of unique. I can't wait to meet Mr. Williams, he said. What was that? I mean, you have a genuine love for baseball, too.
Oh, no question about it. I used to play, and it was my first love. It's just that basketball came along. I grew a little bit and sort of stuck with it. But I enjoy watching baseball games. I'm an avid fan, and anybody can hit 400, you got to like them.
You used to go to St. Louis. You used to take that van and go to see the Cardinals play and Stan Musial, huh?
Watch a lot of games in the summer, too, on cable, and watch all the Red Sox games as many as I can. And I'm a big baseball fan, there's no question about it. Just got through watching the Bruins play. Before I come over here, I don't know all the rules, but...
You don't have to. Bobby, it's funny because we were waiting. Ted and Larry were here first, and Ted says, well, where's the great one? I guess he was talking about you. Huh?
That's right.
Well, I'm obviously thrilled to be here with Larry and Ted. I've heard a lot about Ted Williams, and I've, in the last couple of years, come to know Ted, and we've had a wonderful time together, and I certainly enjoy being with him. And I've watched Larry play a lot, and he's certainly an incredible athlete, and he'll go down as one of the greats.
How's he as a fisherman, Ted? Bobby?
I got to say he's pretty good. We had a great week up on a tremendous river, the Cascapedia in Quebec, and he showed me an awful lot. In fact, I was amazed at how good he really was. And I took a lot of other heat with it, but during the evening that we just got together this evening, why, Larry was telling me about his liking fishing, and I used to fish in the same state, Indiana, down there in the what's the name of that river?
Tippecanoe.
Tippecanoe.
I'm surprised.
I was based out there in primary flying, you know, but I didn't get a chance to fish out there.
All right, we're going to take a break here and come back. There are 3 of you guys here, and Larry, you and I talked just before Ted and Bobby showed up that there could have been a 4th here, and of course we know it was Bill Russell, and we'll come back and talk about there are 3 guys of your level. If there was going to be a 4th, it would be him, but he's not here tonight. We'll come back and talk about that and much more about your careers and really the reasons that you're here tonight as we continue with our very special edition of Sports Final. Stay with us.
Nobody on, last of the 8th inning. Jack Fisher into his windup. Here's the pitch. Williams swings, and there's a long drive to deep right. That ball is going, and it is gone. A home run for Ted Williams in his last time at bat in the Major League.
They're not born hitters or pitchers or managers, and luck isn't the key factor. No one has come up for a substitute for hard work. I've never met a great baseball player, who didn't have to work harder at learning to play baseball than anything else he ever did. To me, it was the greatest fun I ever had, which probably explains why today I feel both humility and pride, because God let me play the game and to learn to be good at it. Proud because I've spent most of my life in the company of so many wonderful people.
Ted, of course, that was your Hall of Fame induction. And let's talk a little bit about the three of you. How much was inherent talent and how much the intangibles that put you at this level? Larry?
Well, I like to say it was a lot of hard work. I spent a lot of time out there practicing, trying to develop my skills from a young age. And sure, you know, I got the height. I was lucky enough to grow to be 6'9", but the feel for the ball, the anticipation I might have got from someone else down the family tree, but I put a lot of time in, and I'd say a lot of my skills come from hard work.
Bobby?
Well, I think we've been blessed with an ability to play a sport, but as Larry said, I think it takes some hard work and love of the game, and I certainly love my game, and I'm sure Ted and Larry love their games, and I think that has a great deal to do with it.
I think that if you're blessed with the talent and you can direct your interest and love towards the ability that you've got. In other words, I know I never could have been a basketball player nor a hockey player, but I love baseball so much, and I lived in California. And here's where I think the luck of your life comes into it, that I lived in sunny California where I could play every day. Now, they could play inside, he could play inside, but there's never been a great baseball player in Canada. However, there's one coming up. That Walker kid's a hell of a player.
But you talk about luck in your birthplace in California. He's in Indiana, was a hotbed of basketball.
That's right.
He was in Perrystown, a hotbed of hockey. So well, you really all had that, had that environment.
Right. We all grew up playing our respective sports and loved to play them as a kid. And I'm sure the two gentlemen played sand lot, out on the street, bouncing balls. I was shooting pucks all the time, playing hockey in the parking lots, whatever.
Fate, luck. Let me ask you this, you guys. When did you know that you were better than everybody else at that level? There must have been some point that you knew, one, that you were better than everybody else. And when you moved up in competition, were you surprised you were still better? And how did you react to that?
Well, I never really thought about being better. All I knew is I loved to play the game, and it was my dream to play the game, and I was getting an opportunity to play the game I loved, and I wanted to get to the pros and stay there for a long time. But that's all I thought about. But thinking about being better than the next, sure. I think as you go through minor hockey and junior hockey, yeah, you know there's something there, but I don't think you think about it a whole lot. You have a goal, and you want to reach that goal.
You guys have different experiences about that, Larry, but you knew that, I mean, the size was coming sooner or later.
Well, in high school, I came from a small school, small town, and there was always doubt, well, you don't play against great competition. Same thing in college, and I think it was after I got into pros, and I don't know if I was better than anyone else, but that team I was playing against that night, that's all that mattered, if I was the best player on the court that night. Then when the season's over and they said, well, you're the MVP this year, you know, that's fine. But I don't know. I think there were times out there where I knew I was the best player on the court.
A lot of times.
A lot of times.
Really, a lot of times.
I don't know. Just according to how the flow of the game went. There's a lot of times I had control of the game, I knew it, and I could do basically anything I wanted out there.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to it.
It happen every night.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it hasn't happened in the last 2 or 3 years.
Ted, you were, by your own admission, were not the best player in your high school team.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, I never did really ever think I was better than anybody else. The only thing that stimulated me was when somebody that I was playing against was doing a better job than I was doing. And he immediately became my challenge and my target and the guy I was centered on.
Young Ted Williams.
And that was I think as I look back, a pretty good thing. I came up with the tag being extremely cocky. And I can tell you from the heart, what I might have said might have sounded cocky, but I was really pretty frightened about it all for a long time. And never, I knew after I'd played 4 or 5 years, when I first come to the big leagues, I saw these big league hitters, and I said, I think I can hit as good as any of those guys, being myself. But then after 4 or 5 years, I said, I know I can hit as good as any of those guys.
So fear is a powerful motivator. I mean, and so you have some fear inside of you, that fear of failure.
Did you ever have any fear about...
Every game.
Yeah, did you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
What fear? Fear of what?
Fear of not going out and
Doing
playing
the job.
well, doing the job.
Why?
that
Because you
we
were
love to do.
expected, because you were at this level that you were expected to do it?
Well, I just think that I was scared before every game. Every big game, I just get so nervous. But once I got on the court, I was fine. But I think it was just because I knew I was playing against either Magic Johnson or Dr. J that I wasn't going to be able to hit my shot that night, or things weren't going to be clicking. And once I got out there and hit a couple shots, I was fine, or once the game started. But the fear from that 2 o'clock in the afternoon till game time, it got to where it hurt a lot of times.
I think, I was afraid of not performing properly. And I think if you look at players like this, they all are afraid before the game that they're not going to perform the way they're expected to perform.
Amazing.
I know for a fact in my own case that if I was worried about how well I was going to do against a pitcher, I fared a lot better than if I said, boy, he's my cousin. And the next thing I knew, I went 0 for 4. And I had one guy I thought I could really hit. And finally, one of the writers, the Knights, came up to me one time. Yeah, he came up to me one day and he says, you know, you're 0 for 12 against this guy. I said, what? You're 0 for 12. And then I started taking him serious again, and I did a little better.
All right, it's amazing. Here we go. Larry Bird, Ted Williams, and Bobby Orr. We'll be back with more in this special edition of Sports Final. Stay with us.
Bobby Orr, behind the net to Sanderson, to Orr! Bobby Orr scores for the Boston Bruins! The Bruins will stand the cup! Orr putting it in the
The best sports city in the world, certainly in North America, and much of the credit goes to those 3 people.
And we're back with those 3 people, Larry, Ted, and Bobby. You know, I was over at the Sports Museum yesterday. If these guys are human highlight films, you're a human scrapbook. I mean, that's just the way the years were. Best line that I heard from talking about the 3 of you: if you were the raging bull of Boston sports, these 2 guys were the sacred cows. And that goes into just saying what you said while we were off camera about what you talk about Larry and Bobby and what people tell you.
Well, yes, we were talking about that. And even though first time I've met Larry, and I've had a couple of experiences with my friend to the right, I've never heard a word, ever, that he's a pop-off or he is, watch out for him. You know, you hear those words about a lot of people and times. And but never have I ever heard a lousy word about Bobby nor Larry. And I mean, it's got to be a reason for it. They're class guys, and they've been the best there ever was.
Larry, did you, this is a story. I mean, all 3 of you guys have had statues. Our fantasy was to have each one of those statues out here and have you guys walk out tonight. But yours is in Cooperstown and yours are in storage because the Sports Museum is moving. But that was our thought. It would have been a great idea. It still was, but it wasn't going to happen tonight. When your statue was presented to you at LaMontagne made the statue, you said that when you look up during the national anthem, you look at his number 4. Is that a true story?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I always feel I need something to motivate me. You know, I always try to pump myself up for games, but every time I've seen a film clip of Bobby, it was always one where he hits a shot and dives across the ice. So before the national anthem, it's right above the scoreboard, I always look at Bobby's number to try to motivate me. And it always worked, because I always played pretty well in the Garden. I had some bad games, but, you know, I played pretty well in the Garden. Just an extra motivational tool. So thanks, Bob.
I'll tell you, those bad games, you looked at Phil Esposito.
I watched a little bit of basketball, and I'm trying to think of that bad game Larry had. But you know, hearing something like that from Larry, obviously, it's
So this is,
wonderful.
I mean, you guys, this is really a mutual admiration society.
Well, I've watched Larry a long time, and if you look at Larry, you hear people say, he doesn't run real fast, he doesn't jump real high, and yet, what is it? It's his heart, it's his desire, it's his love for the game, and he dives into the crowd. That's why he's going to go down as one of the great ones. Coming in tonight, I called a friend to say hello to him, and he started on Ted Williams. he says, do you know? He says, you're from Canada. Do you know anything about baseball? You know, it's 17 Grand Slams, missed 5 years, which 5 of his best years. It's incredible, and still.
It's true. Five of his prime years in the service. Both you guys had your careers cut short. You, in fact, played maybe 11 years in total, and before you were hobbled, you played maybe 8 years, and that's the most amazing thing, and of all the greatness that, I mean, for what would have been. But Ted always said that the hardest thing in sports was to hit a baseball. Now, do you still believe that? Would you tell these guys the same thing?
Well, I think that there's a lot of elements that would give you a little weight behind that statement. I told that to Sam Snead one time. I said, Sam, look, you're hitting that round ball there, flat head. I said, it's smiling at you half the time, and I said, you whack it. I said, that's got to be easier than what I have to do. I'm hitting curve balls, knuckle balls, with a round ball and a round bat. I said, it has to be harder hitting that. And, of course, I was really kind of kidding him. And Sam says to me, he says, yeah, but he said, I have to hit my foul balls. So he had a point there.
What about, I mean, there's something to be said for the punishment that you had to go through, night in, night out. I mean, that's a tough game at a tough level.
Well, it is, but, you know, your body adjusts. I mean, you go out there and you bang yourself around the floor a few times, you get adjusted. You don't feel it until the next day because you're so pumped up. But I think it'd be pretty tough to hit a fastball for Roger Clemens. I mean, for me it would, because I'd be bailing out every time.
Boston, this is the one common denominator, other than your talent and your love of the game and the heart that you put into what you did. Boston, fate put you here. You stayed your whole careers here. Did that have an effect on, I know it had an effect in your lives, but the fact that you played everything in one town, forget the asterisk and the Chicago and all that experience, you all played your careers here. What about the one-town careers and playing in this town?
Well, Boston is wonderful, great sports fans, Bob. Tough. They expect an honest effort, but if you give them that honest effort, it's a wonderful city. But for your family, schools, shopping for the wives, it's a wonderful city to be in. And when I left Chicago, the first decision we made was that we wanted to live in Boston, bring our children up here, and we are here. And I think that says a whole lot about what we think about the city.
Would you guys, if in baseball and Bonds now with San Francisco, if that happens, Kirby Puckett stayed in Minneapolis, maybe the best decision he made, turned down more money staying down. What about staying in the same city, and if free agency was available to you guys today, would you do it, honestly?
I would. I would have. You know, you can look at it both ways. Ruth had stayed here in Boston all his life, instead of going to New York, where he got all the publicity and he had the great teams, and he got all the publicity and the one and only and mighty forever Babe Ruth. I think that you'd have to say that was a break for him. Again, I've always thought, maybe not my first 3 or 4 years I was here, because I took, I think, quite a bit of heat from the Knights. But I want to tell you, I am so thankful that I had a chance to be here over the course of 20 years. And there's something about the fans in Boston that they're big softies is what they are. They're loyal as they can possibly be. They are as ardent a sports fan as you can get any place. I think, I know for myself, I feel like I was extremely lucky to have played my career in Boston.
Larry, you actually did have a shot to go, or a chance to go to free agency, and turned it down. But what are your thoughts and feelings about Boston and that
I'll let
decision?
you in on a little secret. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was in Oakland, California, and I had a friend call me and said, hey, the Pacers are getting ready to make a deal for you. They're going to trade for you. And, you know, I was just sitting there on the phone thinking, God, the Celtics are going to trade me. I can't believe it. And after I got through talking to him, I hung up the phone and packed my bags because I was waiting for the coach to call me and tell me the deal was being done, and I was going to retire from basketball right then. So there's no way I would ever play for another team. I would have before I came here because I didn't know much about Boston. But once I got here and got settled in and started playing, I'm like, Bobby, if you give an honest effort out there, the fans react to that. And once you get in one place and they start liking you, it's hard to leave.
You know, we talk about media pressure. We're going to talk about this. You know, when he broke in, there were 8 daily newspapers. 8 daily newspapers, a smaller market. I mean, that was dog eat dog. Today you got the TV stations, but I think it's kind of a much softer and a kinder, gentler, to pardon the phrase of a friend of yours, a kinder, gentler approach. But what you had to endure is amazing. But we'll come back. We have a very special thing coming up in the next section. So stay with us. Sports Final continues with Larry, Ted, and Bobby here on our stations tonight.
Towns, now this will probably be the biggest, but I think I can handle it. I know since this is such a sport-minded town, and that's where I fit in, sports is my life, I think I can fit in quite well.
I think I can fit in quite well. I guess you fit in quite well. And you know what? It's, for our station in Terre Haute, this is very interesting. They're going to be broadcasting this a little time. This show is being done live in Boston on Sunday night, and now it's Monday morning. We've passed midnight, and of course, this happens to be the birthday of one of our panelists. One of our panelists has now turned 36 years old. It is not Ted, it is not Bobby, and it's not me. So with further ado, we ask you to turn around, Larry. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Larry. Happy birthday to you. Bob Newmeyer. Let him get a shot of the cake here while we're doing this.
This is Mike's Pastry, 50 pounds of rum and strawberry.
Right.
Bob asked me what I could do to help with the show, and he says, Nooms, we need a cake guy. So that's my role in the show. Here it is, 36 candles celebrating 36 years in the life of Larry Joe Bird.
Thank you.
We've got some gifts as well. I'm going to reach down and...
Not many guys have a birthday cake on the air live, right?
No.
Especially
I know that.
How many guys have had Williams and Orr sing him happy birthday?
Ted, here's one that I know you want to give to Larry.
Oh, yeah. Red Sox number 9.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Very
Williams.
great guy, Larry.
I got a place for that.
Yeah. There you go, Larry. I know you're a great skater, and
I've never been on a pair of Thank you.
The chances are you're never going to be either.
And Ted, I knew you would be upset seeing Larry get a sweater, and if you didn't get one, so there's Mr. Williams.
Thank you very much.
Wear that on our next fishing trip.
I will.
Let's scare the fish away.
That's terrific.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Is this mine?
Yeah.
Is this mine?
Okay.
Great.
That's
Thank
good.
you. Thank
Bob, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's Bob, I'm just going to have a piece of the cake. Yeah, that's it. Blow out the candles and we can move on with the show.
You don't want me to spit all over the cake.
Actually, it would make pretty good television. All right, we'll let you off the hook and we'll come back. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
36. And having Ted Williams and Bobby Orr sing him happy birthday. A birthday party. All right, we'll be back with more on Larry Bird's birthday and the Sports Final as we continue right after this.
When you have him right here and you can see him so many times and do this over and over again, rise to these various occasions, it's something that the fans in New England, I know, cherish beyond any question of doubt.
We were just talking about the peripheral vision, the behind the back, that famous pass to Walton and the Parrish, and just all the passes you made, and Ted, his ability to see the seams of a baseball, and Bobby, you call them desperation passes, but they were right on somebody else's stick. So, well, I guess that just goes down to native ability, right? I mean,
well,
don't be so humble.
I'm not being humble. You do anticipate sometimes, I think, but I think I'm watching Larry, and Larry play the game of basketball. I mean, people say, well, how does he know they're there? I mean, he's passing like this and like that and like this, and he looks ahead, he anticipates, he's just, it's like Gretzky in hockey, he's looking ahead, he sees much further ahead than the other players. And Ted, great eyesight. Ted says that you not see the stitching on the ball.
Yeah, but you hit the right word. The anticipation that you guys had, I think, is even a greater asset than the eyes and the hand and all that business, because you got to figure it out before it even starts, and you make it look easy and slow, not fast and so quick that your reactions took over. I think that how you anticipated as you're coming in there.
That's really interesting. We're talking about team sports. He could control his game. Orr could control his game like no other. I mean, control it. Maybe it's the nature of hockey. You couldn't control your game. You got 4 at-bats a game. You might have a couple fly balls hit to you. You might have a chance to run. You had 8 other guys you had to depend on. Totally different orientation. Plus, they played with championship teams. What you had to do in your career was to really motivate yourself, which brings my next question about the press. And often tempestuous and stormy. What is your view of the role that the media played in building your sports images in this town, and was it justifiable? Ted?
Well, you got to say Boston's a great sports town, and they've had some great performers here. But I do think that the controversy, I think the keenness of some of the sports writers certainly helped to develop the feeling of Boston sportsdom. And I would give them some credit in that regard because they seemed to always stir up something that stimulated, one way or another, the sport of the day.
Oh, look at this headline. Ted may get 80 to 100 Gs. It was like, this was 1949. People were shocked that Ted may get 80 to 100. That's what you're getting for doing this show tonight, isn't it? Oh, didn't I tell you other guys? I'm sorry. I hope so. I forgot to tell you and Larry. But what about the press, Larry, and your image of it and the creation, how they created your image and your sports legacy?
Well, it definitely helps. I mean, if it went the other way, they could run you out of town, too. There's no question about it. But, you know, if I played a game and I read an article the next day, that's not the same game I played. I haven't seen one guy could put in words and describe a game like I seen it. I always thought they were putting things in different places where they should have been over here, and they're putting them down here at the end. But I just never seen a guy that could write about a game the way I seen the game or the way I played the game. So, but as far as building making a superstar of somebody, I think that's very easily done.
Did they have that same lack of hockey knowledge that he's suggesting they had in basketball?
I don't think so. I think overall the press is very good in Boston. Many times the professional athlete, give them ammunition to write poor stories, or what you might consider a bad story. But overall, I think the press in this town, there's a lot of competition with radio, TV, and newspaper. Overall, I think they're pretty good. I think they're pretty knowledgeable. They can be tough, without question, but many times we give them that ammunition they need to write a poor story.
Ted, you're the one that had the feuds.
Well, you know, you're talking to two fellows here who I don't ever remember hearing any bad press about them.
Well, like I said, you were the Raging Bull, they were the Sacred Cows.
Yeah, that's right. And I know that I know in my heart that I got a lot of rotten remarks written about me because that weren't true. And I was just rebellious enough at times to throw a little static at them, and they didn't like that. And I think a lot of it I brought on myself by not being quite as mature as I should have been. But that's all part of a career, and you look back on it now and you say, well, I couldn't have changed anything because nothing was predetermined. That's what happened, and that's the way it happened. And some of it turned out worse than I thought or better than I thought.
You read the stuff. Larry said he read the game stories. Did you read the press every day about Bobby Orr and the Bruins' performance? And did you pay any attention to it?
Oh, I think you do read some of it. I didn't read it all. I didn't see it all.
Did you ever get any bad write-ups?
Oh, yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't think the great athletes read it every day. I mean, there's no sense in reading it every day. I mean, you don't run to the store to get the paper to read it. It's not worth it. I mean, if you ain't got nothing to do and the paper's laying there, you usually read it. If somebody else buys it, I usually read it.
That's the same with going to the movies for you.
That's right. But you never get caught up. You get good press, bad press. You don't get great things written about you every day, but there's good in it, there's some bad in it. So you just take it for what it's worth.
When you're talking about bad press, I mean, if you played a poor game and then they're going to write about that, and I think you expect that if you play a poor game, they're going to write you played a poor game.
But you didn't have 8 daily newspapers trying to survive writing about you. I mean, I'm just saying that. Yeah. You were in the middle era. Oh, 8 daily newspapers and a couple of mornings and a couple of afternoons, and you were in every one of them every day. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, I know some of them didn't like me, too.
Hard to believe.
I was a bad guy.
We're going to take a break here and more of a sports final. We'll be back with another segment here with Larry, Ted, and Bobby here in the special edition of Sports Final.
We wanted Bob to help us raise funds for the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yeah, of course, and my job was to make him look good.
He certainly did that.
Next on A Different World, Whitney's and Art.
All right, this is our final segment on this visit from the 3-on-4 here, sports final. Larry, Ted, and Bobby. Ted and Bobby, you've been retired, Hall of Fame, numbers retired. What do you know that Larry doesn't know about retirement? And what kind of stages is he going to be going through?
Well, I got about 20 years on him to start with. And I'm really feel fortunate that I had fishing interests, and I even had some business interests. And I was lucky in that regard because it was with dealing with hunting and fishing and guns and tackle. And I was lucky in that regard after I got through that I could still had a lot of interest. But I really am glad that I had a chance, and fishing meant so much to me because I'm going to be able to fish as long as I live, but I can't play tennis anymore and I can't play golf anymore.
You know, Larry is going to need about a year and a half to get it out of his system. Something's been taken away from him that he's played all his life, so he's going to go through a period. But in talking with Larry before the show, he's keeping very busy, and that's very, very important. But it's going to take a while. One day his back is going. He thinks it's going to feel pretty good, and he might think maybe I could still play. But he's going to go through a period. It's going to take a little bit of time, but he's keeping very busy, and that's real important for Larry right now to keep busy, and things will be fine. He'll do well.
I think he knows he's got an emotional night ahead of him on February 4th. I guess that goes without saying, huh?
No question about it. It's going to be a big night, and I think I'll do all right. You know, the big night was the night before I retired. That was the one that hurt the most. But I really haven't been out in front of the fans since then, so sure it'll be emotional, but I should be able to handle it pretty well.
Want to practice here a little?
Not really.
No, not really. I mean, I remember in your retirement number, there was a lot of tears, and on both sides of the ice, from you and from a lot of the fans. You said, and Ted, the same thing. I remember when Yaz retired, he went around and touched everybody at Fenway Park. But you guys had a special connection to the Boston fans. You know it, whether it was through your greatness, there was a special chemistry that each one of you had in a special way with those fans. Can you explain it, Larry? Can you put it into words? You know, you didn't meet them. You probably felt like you signed everyone's autograph.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think just like we talked about earlier, you know, you go out there and if they know you're giving 100%, they like you. And if you're a special player to them, they like you even more. It's really hard to pinpoint the reason, but I always felt that I had a good relationship with them, and I needed that. They motivated me to levels that I didn't think I could ever reach in basketball. That was very important to me.
If you could play another sport and be as proficient in another sport as you were in the one that you've chosen, what would it be?
Baseball.
It would be baseball? Why?
I love baseball. I like baseball. I play a little bit, and I really enjoy baseball.
Larry?
Baseball.
Gee.
Yeah.
Same, huh? You would have loved to, would you traded all this basketball stuff for baseball? You would have traded all this hockey stuff for baseball?
You said if we...
Okay. Really?
No, I'm in love with basketball, but I enjoy playing baseball. Used to play a lot of baseball. Used to play a lot of softball.
Ted?
Oh, no question. Baseball was my life, the greatest love of my life, everything that happened to me. But there's one thing you brought up earlier tonight, about their busts and their sculptures and all the rest of it. The one that I had that's in Cooperstown, I shed a tear that day. And there I was with my statue there by Montaigne, and it was a hitting shot. But as I looked at that statue of me, I could see over about 60 feet the statue of Babe Ruth. And that brought a tear to my eye, because there was only one forever and always, Babe Ruth. And as a kid, I thought that. And there's my statue right there in view of the mighty Ruth. And a lot of things came together, you know. and I realized how lucky I'd been in my sport.
I guess when you think back and you said it, do you stop every once in a while and say, why? Why me? Why this life? Why this happened to me? Why am I so blessed? Do I deserve it? All these things, Larry?
Every day. Especially when I'm home in Indiana and look at the house and the cars, sitting there by yourself at the pool, and you go, why me? And I know I spend a lot of time, but still I don't understand it, never will understand it. I have problems with people coming up to me and asking me for my autograph because I can't believe it. It's mind-boggling, but it happened and it's over with. Now I gotta go on with my own life.
Bobby?
I'm a lucky guy. It's a wonderful country.
Well, both countries.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
And Ted feels the same way. I mean, you know, you say, why were you guys so blessed? And why was this town so blessed? This town has had its share of tragedies, make no mistake about it, but you guys were the compensation for all those bad moments.
I relate it to a lot of luck in life. And I was thinking about this program, and I was thinking about how close I come. I know how close I come in my life several times of having it all in right there. But I remember one time in my sport come awfully, awfully close. The closest I'll ever come to getting crunched by baseball. And it was against Score, and he could throw the ball almighty fast. And I had hit him well. I'd hit him well. And I got out of the way of a pitch. Today, I don't know how it ever happened, how I got out of the road. And I feel that I was extremely lucky that pitch to get out of the road.
Luck plays a big part of it, but all that skill and all that fun that you brought here. Thank you all for being here tonight. Larry, Ted, Bobby, this was a unique program. Aren't many things that...
It's great to be on with him.
It's great to be on with you guys, and I'm sure they all feel the same way, and so does our audience tonight. Thank you very much for being with us in a special edition of Sports Final. There aren't many things, as I said, that you can do for the first time in this business anymore, but this is it. And we've had a great thrill having all of them here, and we've enjoyed
I'm only doing this for Children's Hospital.
Can you believe it? The VZ Children's Hospital.
In front of the fire to get out and get to work, to split those rails or chop down those trees to clear the farmland or to work behind the plow.